Welcome to episode 48 of the No Shelf Control podcast. I am Lindsey Sparks, and I'm like feeling, hold on, sorry everybody. Okay, I was feeling nervous about which mic was recording. I am Lindsey Sparks, here with my lovely co-author and co-host, Lindsey Pogue, opening this extremely professionally. I will be interviewing our very own LP today. So it will just be the two of us, and we will be talking about her Forgotten Lands series, which she recently wrapped up with the third and final book called Tide and Tempest.
Yes, I did.
Yes, you did. In November, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, so last month. And before we dive in, I feel like I need to remind everybody that this is not a spoiler-free zone. Nothing in the Forgotten Lands is safe. And you know us, we love to go off on tangents and talk about random things. And so that means once we get to the book discussion, like pretty much no book is safe.
Right.
So,
Pretty much.
Yeah. But I will try to give a reminder, a spoiler warning reminder right before we go into the actual like book discussion part. Yeah. So before we get to the extra spoileriness, tell me what you're drinking.
Well, it's that time of year, so I cracked open one of my spiked eggnogs that Dennis and I make for gifts every year. And so it's time I opened some for myself, and it's delicious. I like it when it's older, but it's still delicious. So
yeah. So you're gonna like it more in February.
In fact, you're gonna think this is gross, but I found, because the recipe says you can age it for up to 2 years, and I actually still had half of a mason jar left from last year that I was kind of nervous, but I tried it out like a month ago, and it was actually so good because it's so fermented and smooth, like it's just really rich and creamy, and it's not like, when you make it to begin with, it's really good, but there's 3 different types of boozes in there, so it's a lot, like it's kind of strong. So it's nice after many months, like it's just really smooth and it's just really easy to drink. So anyway,
and so then you were able to like compare it, right?
Yeah, and it was really cool. So that's why when I give them as gifts, I tell everyone, you can have it now, it's ready, because I usually, Dennis and I will do like a wait 2 or 3 weeks before we give them to people, so that they've had some time to set and age a little bit. But I'll tell them, like, if you have patience, hold off for as long as you can and try it. Or you can do like a try some now and then try some in 2 months or something, or whatever, because you can taste the difference, and it's just really, really yummy.
And I am like 99% sure I asked you this last year, but can you remind me what goes into egg? Like, does egg go into eggnog?
Yeah, so it's only egg yolk. Definitely don't drink it if you're lactose intolerant, because there's about 3 different types of cream / milk in there.
Products.
Yeah, and then the egg yolks, and then nutmeg and sugar and salt, and then it's like, it makes like one of those big pitchers, this is what the recipe calls for, and it's also has a cup of Jamaican rum, a cup of bourbon, and a cup of cognac. So,
and then when you store it, do you store it in the fridge?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, so like, I know a lot of people, they love to get whatever that pre-made stuff is at Costco, which now that I've had mine, I'm like, oh, that stuff is so gross. But like that kind of stuff, like you just buy it off the shelf. And it doesn't come refrigerated. You have to keep this in the refrigerator. Everything in it is perishable. The reason why it doesn't go bad, though, is because you have all that booze in there that just like, it just ages it. So,
and then like, so the stuff that you buy at the store, is it have booze in it too?
I don't know if you can. I mean, everything that like they have in the milk section is it's just eggnog. It's not spiked in any way that I've seen anyway. Because my mom is one of those, she loves those diehards that during Christmas, and she'll get like those cartons of eggnog, and then she'll add her own brandy. She'll do like eggnog and brandy. but I just go for it's really expensive to make. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a lot of ingredients and it's a lot of money, but it's totally worth it. And it's like a fun thing to do. It's like one of our little traditions now.
Yeah.
So
no, it's fun.
yeah. I think my biggest complaint is we put them in mason jars to give to people, and it's a lot of damn mason jars to have in my refrigerator. So that's the only thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, first world problems. It's
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, I totally recommend it. I recommend people trying it if you like eggnog, because especially the adult beverage kind, because it's just so much better than just buying it at the store. It's fresh and homemade, and you know what you're putting in it, and
Yeah.
So anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. I'll probably be drinking it 3 months from now, and everyone's gonna think I'm creepy. I did burn myself.
Eggnog?
I did burn myself out though. So that's why I think I had some left over, and I was so excited a month ago or whatever. I think it was during Thanksgiving I found it. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna try it. And I was very pleasantly surprised. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know. I'm delirious. Well, let's What are you drinking?
I'm not drinking eggnog.
Yeah, figured.
Yeah. I am drinking red wine.
Nice.
Yeah. I believe this is a Shiraz, I want to say. And I also believe it is called Inkscape.
Ooh, I like that.
And it has like a octopusy squid thing on there. I know that octopuses and octopi and squid are two different creatures. So I apologize if anybody is insulted by me combining them. Something tentacly is on the label.
Nice.
Yeah. So I actually haven't had any to drink yet. So I will do that right now.
Do it. Let's do cheers. Cheers. Ding ding.
Cheers. Clink. Oh, I clinked my teeth. Cool. Yeah. It's good. I had some last night, so good. I already knew what I was getting into. All right. What are you working on right now?
I haven't had a lot of time to work. So what I can do when I have time is I'm going through my, my skeleton draft of City of Ruin, and I'm really fleshing that out and slowly but surely tacking on that word count. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm on like chapter 13 or 14 or something like that.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that the reason you're not having a lot of time to work right now is because of your feline child.
Yeah. He's doing a lot better, which is great. But so he went in for surgery, like kind of an emergency surgery 2 weeks ago. And like he had this really big lump that just popped up on his head. And then anyway, long story short, it was gross, and they had to do draining tubes. And anyway, I'm sure this happened to a lot of people's cats before, but it's never happened to me. So it definitely wasn't. It was more, I think it was mostly super stressful because I couldn't get him in anywhere. So you know how that is, like if your kid's sick or your pet's sick, and like he has a giant lump on his head, like it looked like it was going to explode, and I couldn't get him in anywhere. So I, after a few days, I finally got him in, and I know everyone's probably thinking, why didn't you take him to the emergency room? But he wasn't in any pain. I could touch it. It was fine. Like he didn't have a fever. He was eating normal. He was purring. Like he acted like it was nothing. So I was like, I'm not going to go and pay triple the amount if I can just get him to the vet, So anyway, and it all, worked out obviously, but so got him in, got him taken care of. But long story shorter is he's an outdoor cat for the most part, and he has had to be inside for 2 weeks with a cone, and he can't clean himself. He can't like barely eat on his own. Like he's doing better now. I mean, it's been like ridiculous. It's been ridiculous. But now he's just angry because he's like, I want out that fucking door. Like he's like clawing at the windows, and he's just like, it's going crazy. But I'm really hoping that when I take him to the vet tomorrow, they're gonna be like, hey, he's totally awesome, and we're gonna let him out into the world. I mean,
is he still in the cone of shame?
Yeah, he is. And he's not sleeping because he's so irritable, which means I'm not sleeping. So I'm really ready for him to be normal again. It's just kind of weird because like they shaved his head, right? So I can still see all the incisions and all the stitches. And to me, it doesn't look like he would be okay to go out. But they said by now it should be okay. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. But I guess we'll see what they say tomorrow. I mean, I'm not going to argue with them if they say that he's fine, because I mean, it's no quality of life for anyone in this house right now, including him. And I wish he could understand, you know, every time he like tears off his cone and I'm like freaking out trying to get it back on because he's tearing at his, I'm just like, you're making it worse for yourself, buddy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I remember we always had indoor outdoor cats growing up. And you always knew which cats were the fighters and which were the runners based on where they would end up getting abscesses, either on their heads or their butts.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing, is they thought it was a cyst because, and now we're getting gross again, but just because he had no infection symptoms whatsoever, no wounds, nothing. But when they went in to like remove it, they're like, oh, this is not what we thought it was. But then it was kind of, it's one of those things where I'm trying to find the silver lining. One of the things that this new doctor that I took him to, this new vet, because my peeps couldn't get him in, is you know, he's been going to the same vet we adopted him when he was 1.5, 2 years old. He's been going to the same vet ever since. And there's been some issues that I've had with him that they've kind of been like, oh, you just need to grow thicker skin, and just like, this is just kind of like how cats are sort of deal. Like I'm pretty sure that's even the words that he used at some point, the doctor. And I kind of got that because like, I don't know what Beast's life was before I rescued him. You know, he was already an adult. He already had tons of health issues. Like, I don't know what the poor guy went through. So yeah, he was kind of neurotic in a lot of ways, whatever. But this new vet is kind of like figuring out some things about him that I feel like my vet should have noticed. Or, you know, like one of them is a heart murmur. I'm like, I don't think that just pops up. I mean, if it does, he was at the vet like 6 months ago. Did it just pop up between now and 6 months ago? I don't know, maybe. But I don't know, just things like that. So I kind of am trying to look at the silver lining of like, maybe I need a new vet at this point, you know. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. But anyway, we'll see how all that goes. But hopefully tomorrow though, everything will be right as rain, and we're gonna just get all back to normal, and right before the holidays. That I never even finished decorating my house for Christmas. I never finished Christmas shopping, but it is what it is, because you can't really plan for these things. So.
Yeah.
If I could trust him and leave him alone, it would be a different story, but I obviously can't.
To not rip his cone off.
Yeah, and then tear apart his stitches, which is what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
I've been drugging him when I can, but you know. When I get really desperate.
Yeah. Well.
Anyway, what are you working on? Because you don't have your script right now.
Yeah, because you have it. I am so Song of Scarabs and Fallen Stars is officially out of my hands. The whole thing is with beta readers, which feels both like wonderful, and also it's always like a little bit scary before you hear anything back, where you're just like, oh my god, what if it's terrible. But so I am working on my insanely long to-do list that includes like proofing audiobooks, and I set up a Discord channel or Discord server, which I've been on. It's actually really fun. So I've been on for all of my work sessions. I go on there and I have my people can listen to me and like my like random mutterings and ramblings and stuff as I'm like cursing while I'm trying to do stuff. And then I have a chat channel set up that goes with my audio channel, and so people can talk to me and like respond. It's been really fun. And then I have like places where they can post fan fiction and stuff like that. I love it. I'm really excited. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So that's like, I have my reader group on Facebook that's like for my good fan, or like my great fan, like people who love my books. And then it's like the super hardcore people head on over to Discord and hang out with me all day. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just like been so much stuff that I didn't do for 3 months that has piled up. You know how it is. You do kind of the same process.
Yep.
So, however, I do really, since I think you gave me the idea to do it like this. I think so. Yeah. To just like
take a break and
shove everything out of your head and not worry about the admin stuff, and then like do it between projects kind of. So it is really nice to just not be like feeling like you're stressing over juggling story and admin stuff. So yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
I have my Discord. I've had it for so long. I should utilize it more.
It's really fun. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know half the stuff you can do with it, but
Yeah,
it's the same way with most of the people who've joined. So yeah, I have one reader who's been hanging out with me most of my time that I'm in my office, and it's just great. She just like, yeah, I'll be like, God, I really want a cookie, and then she'll just pop in the chat and be like, get a cookie. Like, okay. Since you told me I could.
yeah, since you twisted my arm.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah. I'll put a link to that if anybody wants to check it out.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. So what are you, since you're not able to work much, are you able to get some good listening in, some good reading?
Funny you should ask. So I am listening to an audiobook. I'm looking at it right now because I know I'd forget the name. I wanted to read this book. I was trying to get my book club to read it this last time we met. It's called Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. And it's a rom-com. It's an LGBT rom-com, and it won like dozens of accolades and awards in 2019. NPR, Oprah, all bunch of stuff. Anyway, so I was like, I want to check it out. And it's, like I said, it's rom-com. So it's not like dark and crazy. It's just it's just really witty. It's really fun. And it's essentially about this guy whose mom, he's like the first son. And because his mom's the president of the United States. And then he doesn't get along with the Prince of Wales. They're like kind of arch enemies, and then they get into some trouble, and so they have to start spending more time together, and then they like decide that they like each other, and it's really cute and fun. Like I said, it's super witty, it's smart writing, which is what I really like. So anyways, I'm enjoying that, but mostly I have been beta reading. So I had someone else's manuscript before yours, so I just started yours a couple days ago. But yeah, so pretty much all my free time has been reading that way. Yeah. And then I just got Titan Tempest audiobook. So I need to approve that, but I just haven't had time. So yeah. Anyway, but that's me. What about you? What are you reading?
Well, I just read Titan Tempest.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Which was the like only book that you've ever released that I think I didn't beta read. Just because life. So I had to read that. And I feel like I must be reading something else.
For your reader group.
I'm not actually, I just haven't had a chance. I have been proofing Song of the Soulless, so the latest Atlantis Legacy audiobook. So I've been listening to that, and I just sent off my, I don't know what you call it, like change requests to my narrator this afternoon. So
nice.
Yeah. So I'm in this weird obsession phase. So I'm not really like reading books so much as like learning as much as I possibly can about, this is kind of funny, the metaverse and like Web3 and crypto and blockchain and like NFT, like all the rabbit hole is deep and I am in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
a lot of people are.
Yeah. And it's just like exploded this last like month. I feel like it's become a little bit more mainstream. And I didn't really notice because my head was in the sand with my book. I just came up for air, and it seemed like it was like I was hearing about it everywhere. And so now I'm listening to a couple podcasts about it, just binging through those and reading everything I can about it, because I feel like there's going to be some really cool opportunities for authors once we get into the actual like multi-metaverse virtual reality situation that's going to be happening in the next few years. We can do some really cool stuff with like our fictional worlds and stuff like that. So I just want to be, informed and ready for when I can start building virtual echo world.
Is Joanna Penn talking about it yet?
She's been talking about it for, I want to say, like, she did an episode, I think this summer, that was all about Web3 and blockchain and stuff like that. But I feel like so much has changed already. And I know she, in her latest episode, she did reference an article written by one of her mentors, Yarrow something. And so if in the latest episode of the Creative Pen, for any people who are interested in this, which is a podcast for authors, she has a link to an article that explains a lot of Web3, blockchain, metaverse kind of stuff and how that relates to authors and publishing and stuff like that.
Cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's like everyone I know is buying things. I don't even know what their name is. And I'm just like, oh,
NFTs.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a whole
investing, and I'm like,
yeah,
what the fuck is happening?
I know. It's crazy. It's super crazy. And I'm like, I feel like I need to, but I want to make sure that whatever I invest in I make an informed decision and isn't just like
don't just jump on the bandwagon.
Exactly. So that's why I'm in this like podcast binge kind of thing going on. There's crazy stuff out there, like these horses that you can buy, Zed Run, I think it's called. You buy these horses and they have like digital DNA and you can like breed them and they race, and it's like real life horse racing. It's crazy. The stuff's crazy.
So Ready Player 25 or what?
Yeah. It really is. And I think I'm getting even more excited about it because I'm like, oh my God, All World Online, like my weirdo book, like this is like what the metaverse could be, is like what All World Online is, a metaverse. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be somebody out there who knows some way to like harness AI to build the biblioverse that I created in there, which is just like this giant library, virtual reality library that has every book that's ever been created. And then the AI just like creates games based on like reading those books and is like, here, I'm going to create a game for like all of these different books.
It hurts my brain even thinking about it.
I'm like, yes, I need this to happen.
Dennis has the brain like you when it comes to this stuff. I'm gonna have him look into it, and then he can help me make informed decisions because I can't even go there.
But aren't you excited about the possibility of like playing a Pride and Prejudice game?
Yeah, I mean, that would be really cool. I'm not gonna lie, that'd be really cool. But if it's your fucking world, I'm get stuck in there and people are gonna start dying all around me. I'm not really looking forward to that.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so that's what I've been consuming.
Wrangle some T-Rexes.
Yeah.
You died of dysentery.
Oh yes, I want to play virtual Oregon Trail. That would be really fun.
Anyway, it's funny.
Yeah. So I guess this is the part of the show where I'm going to tell people, right? We both talked about what we're reading, didn't we?
Yeah. Reading, working on. It's just, I don't have like any updates. So I don't have a lot of silence to fill. Sorry.
No, it's cool. I'm trying to think if I have anything else that's like exciting or notable, but I don't feel like I do. I mean, if I think of it, I'll just blurt it out. So final spoiler reminder, everybody. This is the point of no return. We're diving into the Forgotten Lands and specifically Tide and Tempest, but also just kind of this. Most of my questions have to do with the series as a whole, because it's fun to talk about something once it's complete. So can you please give listeners an introduction to the Forgotten Lands series and then specifically to Tide and Tempest?
Yeah, so the Forgotten Lands is, I would say it's kind of like my pet project because it's something I started a while ago, but it kind of combines my love of history and that I write post-apocalyptic stuff. So I really like this one a lot. This is my favorite world that I've created. And
I love it too.
Essentially, it's, I mean, I guess I kind of want to preface with the fact that because I love history, I was reading all these really cool articles and essays that were written during the Victoria era and it had to do with, you know, all these post-apocalyptic and apocalyptic ideas and theories of all these things that were going to happen. And it kind of just stuck in the back of my mind, you know? So then, you know, when I did decide to start writing this series, I was like, okay, well, it doesn't seem like much of a stretch that, you know, the world could have changed, especially if it's a climatic change. And so I really wanted to nestle in the kind of Victorian feel, but then I wanted to be able to take liberties of my own. So the Forgotten Lands is a world where there's a climatic shift during the 1800s, the Victorian era, and it changes the whole world. And I'm sure we can talk more about what that looks like later. But essentially, you know, when the world changes and the climate changes, there were all these different people who either died of disease, you know,
like dysentery.
Yes, actually. But it's kind of one of those things where, you know, climate change all over the world. So maybe where it was, you know, kind of like a temperate climate in one area becomes a desolate desert, or suddenly there's just snow covering the ground and blizzards, you know, all year, every year. So I really wanted to play with the elements with this. And so each book in the series is a different settlement or civilization that kind of survived in their own little pockets in what it worked out to be like the continental United States. So for the specific series. So anyways, yeah, it's all these people who kind of went duck and cover sort of deal during this big climatic change during the Victorian era. So you go and you look, you know, 200, 300 years later, what do these people look like? How are they living? How are they surviving? How did they survive, you know, when everybody else perished, that sort of thing. And so each book, like I said, is a different sort of location or group of people and how they survived. And, you know, every story, so like Dust and Shadow is very kind of like Wild Westy. It's kind of like that, it's that gritty feel to it. Earth and Ember kind of piggybacks on that, but there's a lot more mythology and culture, a lot of indigenous mythology and stuff weaved into that, but also kind of like a Western feel. And then the third book, which is Tide and Tempest, the newest one that just came out, that is more, it takes place more on the West Coast over in my area. And it's kind of like the weather, how it happens here. I guess I should kind of back up, because Dust and Shadow is very like desolate desert, crazy sandstorms. And that's kind of the same thing with Earth and Ember, but they also live up on a mountain. So there's lots of snow and earthquakes and stuff. And then it's really cool because Tide and Tempest is completely different. It's a lot of lightning ravaged worlds, and more has like a kind of a Viking-esque feel, just because it has to do with like coastal living and raiders coming and people stealing and, you know, killing and that sort of thing. So yeah, it kind of is like the gamut of everything that I love, and every book kind of just encompasses something different. I guess the overarching part of this world is the shift, which is the big, you know, change that happened globally almost 300 years ago. But also because it all ends up being in the United States, they're all kind of connected in some way, all these different little lands, these little pockets of people. So yeah, I mean, that's not a succinct way to describe the series at all.
No, it was great though.
But it kind of just gives, it's kind of hard, like it's all, just like I said, it's the adventure and the love stories and the survival stuff that I really like. But I wanted each story to have a different feel. So they're all a little bit different.
So then I had a couple questions pop up while you were talking there. So one was do these stories take place in your head? Are you thinking that these stories take place what would be now-ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been a couple hundred years, like you said.
Yeah.
And then also, so because I know Dust and Shadow and Earth and Ember are linked, like there's a couple like crossover characters. Right. But then is Tide and Tempest at the like general same time period?
Yes. So they're actually, I don't know if you ever finished Earth and Ember.
I did.
Okay, so the last epilogue for that is essentially ends with Luke and Kaya. They travel to the scorched forest, is what they call it, the lightning lands or whatever. They all call it something different, you know. But anyway, they travel to the scorched forest and they see that people go there, and there's there's places where people live and they shelter from the storms. And so they say that they're going to leave an offering because they're going to take some, you know, they're going to take from their land, but they don't want to just be those people, you know.
Oh, and that was the offering reference.
Yeah. And so in Tide and Tempest, when they go, every year they have this trek, kind of like this pilgrimage or whatever. They go to the scorched forest because they have to log and they have to get all of the stuff they need for their home. And they see that, you know, the people were there, that they left offerings and that sort of thing.
Okay, so then do you have like real landmarks that like link up with some of these places? So I know San Francisco is in Tide and Tempest.
So the scorched forest to me was like, it's kind of like the Tahoe area, you know, like it's because then beyond that is then when you start getting into the desert lands, which is like where Arizona and all that is, which is where like Monument Valley and all that is where Dust and Shadow essentially takes place, and Earth and Ember. So they're, you know, they're trekking, they're kind of both like trekking this way, and they kind of meet in the middle.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. And you already talked about one of my questions. Okay, so I would love to talk a little bit more about the shift itself.
Yeah.
So you said it happened during the Victorian era. Can you tell us a little bit more? I think it's really fascinating. And can you tell us a little bit more about like what exactly it is?
Yeah. So I really, you know, because there's so much talk about, you know, especially now, about climate change and what humans are doing to the world. And I mean, the Industrial Revolution was, you know, back then. And so there's this huge boom in everything. Population was just like disgustingly, I mean, it was just horrible, which increased death rates and, you know, disease and all this stuff. So, you know, you have all this supply and demand, all these, you know, all these issues all over the world, people sailing everywhere. And so I just really liked the idea of like, why couldn't it have happened then? I mean, you have this huge influx of people and pollution, and because you have all over the world, there's just factories going up and nobody can keep up. Like people are dying because they're getting worked to death, you know?
Yeah.
So it just kind of made sense to me that it could have happened. I mean, yeah, probably things would have had to been a little different, but who's to say, you know, like, I don't know, it didn't seem like that much of a stretch. So I really just capitalized on the whole Industrial Revolution boom, and then just kind of went into, you know, bad living conditions. So weather conditions that are worsening and giving you like more toxic fogs and like darker skies, and the elements, like I said, change, like the people started going west or to different places in the United States trying to escape their own, like especially if you're in the city where there's so much pollution and people are dying, you know. So back then it would have been black lung, I call it the choke, but there's just a lot of different things, you know, that I was able to kind of take from history, but kind of make a twist on it and be like, well, it still works. Like, even if all these things still happened, even though the world didn't end. So that's why it's just so fascinating to me. But yeah, so essentially that's what it was though. It's just like the Industrial Revolution just like took the world by storm, quite literally, and changed everything.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but because it's been a long time since I read it, but in Borne of Sand and Scorn, which is your prequel to the whole series pretty much, right?
Yeah.
It actually shows the shift.
Yeah.
Right. And I hope I'm not making this up, but there was like a black wave of fog or something, right? That
that really gets into like the nitty gritty, because all of the other stories, they take place, you know, almost 300 years later. So the first one, Borne of Sand and Scorn, is like this kind of affluent, you know, white family who should technically, the father's a doctor, they should be able to, you know, essentially buy their way out of every problem that they have, but the world is ending and people are dying and you can't hide from, you know, the toxic fogs that are in the big cities. And so they flee west spoiler alert, they flee west, but it doesn't save them. So I
Yeah.
mean, so it's just like you can be a doctor and you can, it doesn't mean you're gonna live, sort of thing. So that was a way that I wanted to show what was going on there, but then how people also, like, why did so many people flee to go west, and why are these pockets of civilization out there in the middle of nowhere and stuff. So
Cool.
yeah.
Okay, I feel like you've answered all of that. It's just such a cool, it leads the shift that you created, it leads to such interesting settings and climates and stuff, like, because everything in each of these books, we get to experience a setting that is so, or a climate that's so extreme. Yeah. And they're very distinct and very defined, even between Dust and Shadow and Earth and Ember. The setting, the climates are still very different, because one is like more mountainy and one is like hardcore, like they're running out of water desert kind of situation.
For sure.
And then the lightning storms in Titan Tempest are like extremely terrifying. And just like come out of nowhere. And like it got me thinking, like, is there anywhere that lightning storms are like that? Like that they just like, I don't know if you
I did a lot of research on it, because I also wanted to figure out, like, I wanted to be as realistic as possible too, so I was trying to figure out the science behind it and the difference between, like, what is dry lightning versus like a lightning storm with rain, actual thunderstorm sort of thing. So it was really interesting, but there are places around the world that get over 300 days of the year are lightning storms. So Jesus. Yeah, there really are places like that. I mean, there's no place in the United States it makes like the top 10 or anything, but like Venezuela and places in Africa and stuff like that. So yeah. And it's interesting because the other thing I really wanted to research is, I obviously, like, we know people out in like the Midwest or whatever, there's lightning storms and dust storms and stuff like that, but I wanted to learn more about, like, how possible was it to have that on like a coastal area or whatever. And there's a lot of the places that have this constant lightning, a lot of them are over lakes and water areas. So that's really interesting. So I was like, okay, so this is really interesting. So yeah. And it's funny because I originally wasn't going to do that with that story. That when I first started plotting the series, I knew in my head the third book was going to be like living underground. Oh, because I really wanted it to be like a little more steampunky, but then at the same time, when I sat down to start plotting it, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it meshed really well. It didn't feel like it just wasn't what I wanted to write. I'm not really sure. But I think it's because I like the element stuff. I don't want to write about people being stuck in a tunnel. I want to write about like, I love giving the elements the like villainous like, you know what I mean? Like it's not just people against people. Yeah. It's a lot like a zombie book, because it's like, there's the people against the people, and then there's like this external scary thing. So in zombie books, it's zombies, but in this, it's like the insane weather. So in Dust and Shadow, it was the like drought, or it wasn't even a drought. It was just like the climate. Yeah, like the crazy sandstorms, and then well, there was the sandstorms too. Yeah, but I mean, it was a drought, but it wasn't like, I feel like a drought is temporary. This was like they have no water. There was no water. Yeah. But the sandstorms, I forgot about those. Yeah, that was intense too. Yeah, and I don't know why. I just really, like I said, I just like writing the elements stuff. I think that's why I really enjoyed writing the Darkest Winter. I know different series, but the Darkest Winter so much is because that, like, the elements, trying to survive in Alaska is really hard to do a lot of research and make it realistic, but also because I've obviously never had to do it. But at the same time, it's like, it's so fascinating to me because it's not just crazy people in the world. It's not just man against man. It's like there's so much out of your control that it's even more terrifying than somebody coming at you with a gun almost, because you don't know what's going to happen, Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, I really, really like the environment aspect. So. Well, and it's really cool. Like it was almost like you got to do an anthropological experiment and like kind of set up these civilizations based on the environment that these people are in. So like in Dust and Shadow, there's a lot of like boarding up of windows, and it's just like, how does this like crazy situation impact how you live every day? And in Titan Tempest, like they don't have any metal.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess her weapon has like,
Yeah, I know, but I know what you mean. Yeah, it's not the
but like,
same.
yeah, like and the, you know, the guy, do you say Raph or Rafe?
Ref. I mean, I read, and it's funny in my head, I read it Rafe, but it's not. Like, I think literally it spells Raph.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So like Raph is commenting to Samara, and then do you say Samara? Okay.
Yeah.
Raph is questioning her, like, you guys are so primitive, like it's all these like just like basic wood houses, and she's like, because we don't want to die from lightning.
Yeah, it's like, and it's funny because that was one of those details where I was like, I feel like I need to make this village like more dystopian or like more something, and like make it feel really different. And I was like, but it can't be fancy, because they can't, like, they'll die. Like it has to be the most basic it can possibly be. I mean, you know. So I don't know, it's just really, that was one of those things where it kind of clicked the moment I stopped putting all this pressure on myself. I was like, Lindsey, that doesn't really make sense. Like, it has to be wood, it has to be kind of the barest materials, because you don't want to be conducting, like, in a world of constant lightning storms, you don't want to be conducting, you know, everywhere all the time. So
yeah,
anyway, I don't know, but yeah, no, I'm really, obviously really glad that I went in that direction instead of the whole underground thing, because it's just, I've even tried to do that in the next series, the sister series, Ruinlands, and I was like, every time I go to sit down and I write maybe a few chapters about the tunnels, I'm like, this isn't what I want. Like, this is not interesting to me. So I just think I need to stop trying to push myself to do that, and I just stick with the elements that I just really like to write.
The only thing that I feel like could be really cool about in the sister series in Underground is that the location, what I know of the location of the sister series, or the locations, there's a lot more cool underground options, you know. I don't know how much you want to give away, so
yeah, no, I know. I actually, there's a lot of options and a lot of really cool stuff that I wanted to sit down and write, but I don't think enough of the story takes place there to warrant all the time it would take me to set up that world.
Yeah.
That's my only problem, but I have definitely kind of done this like really basic outline for a prequel that takes place about 75 years before this first book opens in Ruinlands, before when they first start coming up from underground, because they were, I mean, that's how a lot of them survived in the city. Like, they went underground. In my head, that's what they did in London specifically. So I definitely want to touch on that, because I think that a lot of people would be interested in that for sure. But I just, like I said, I started to try and write it in the book, and I was just like, this isn't the time it's taking me to set up this entire world underground for them to leave and then not be a part of it. It was just taking too much time for me. I was getting really impatient. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Betas might be like, oh no, you should probably talk about it more, and then I'll see. But for now, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like just trying to go where my little writing brain wants to go. But
yeah, follow your muse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I know and then also one of your readers had a question about your main character names, which I feel like are really, especially in Earth and Ember, and then in Tide and Tempest, there's some really cool names. So Kaya is the main female character in Earth and Ember, and then Samara is the main female, or I guess she is the main character in Tide and Tempest. Yeah. So do those names have specific meaning? And what was the inspiration behind them?
So everything in Earth and Ember has a meaning, because that is obviously kind of, I really try to take really good care with that series, and I wanted to make sure that every indigenous name that I used was something that was legit, or something that I just didn't want to be making up a bunch of stuff, right? I wanted to pick names that actually had meaning, that I kind of would touch on off and on throughout the manuscript, but mostly I just wanted it to just be more real for myself. I spent a lot of time researching, so I wanted to, you know, bring these characters to life for me in a different way than just giving them like a a name that didn't have any meaning for me, you know?
Yeah.
So Kaya, definitely, that's a Hopi name. And it actually means little wise one. So I thought that was really fitting.
That is fitting.
And of course there was some, it's funny because when you go and I'm looking at all these names and there's some really great ones, and I was like, but I don't even know how to pronounce that, so I'm not going to make my readers try and pronounce that. So I was trying, you know, I did have to kind of, you know, vet them a little bit and make sure that,
oh my God, that is like the craziest part about, or not the craziest, but like one of the most annoying parts about writing about ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I can imagine.
And so I end up just like having a crazy name, and then they get a much briefer nickname.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It's hard for sure. But yeah, like Akima and Kimi and all the like Una, all of those are names that mean something. Maybe not necessarily to the Hopi, because it's a group of a bunch of different tribes that came together during the shift and everything. But but I tried to pick a name, like I said, that was somewhat easy for people to kind of cling on to, but also something that did mean something, right? So, and then Samara, she has a Slavic name, a Russian name specifically, and it means the guardian or protector. So
it's a really pretty name.
Yeah, her mother's background,
Olivia, right?
Olivia, yeah. It's so funny because that's obviously not a very Russian name, but it was one of those situations where one of my giveaways for with my readers was to name a character, and she really wanted to name that character, and I wasn't going to say no, so it is what it is. But anyway, so but yeah, so I mean, Abraham, his name is just what it is. I just came to me. It just felt right. So, and he's not Russian. He's like from, you know, I guess if you go back 200 or 300 years, he's, you know, a Cali boy in some way, shape or form. I mean, he was, you know, I think I referred to him as like, he was a woodsman. His whole, like his whole family were woods people. So whatever their background was, I never really thought much about that, but I wanted Olivia to be, I wanted to really kind of think of all the different people who came to San Francisco, because it's not as a melting pot, right? It's like there were so many different cultures here, especially during that era. I didn't want to just have a whitewash, you know, community. So I really kind of tried to mix it up a little bit. Because then at first I was going to make it way too complicated on myself. And I was like, oh, well, if, you know, like Chinatown and Japanese town, they went over to these areas and they had their own community. And then you think of like, you know, Little Italy. And I'm like, no, why would I be writing all? No, I was like, they can all just come together. They can all just be like, you know, whatever they are. So, I'm trying like, so Raph, his name is Raphael. So, I mean, that's because he's from, you know, Central America, whatever. So I tried to obviously pick something that made sense for that. But yeah, I don't know. I try and pick the names in a way that makes sense to me, you know, that's kind of true to the character and their origin, but it doesn't always work out that way, which is fine too. Like Link, I didn't
even think about that.
Yeah, but
like Eric is very you know, Scandinavian,
especially with the K.
With a K.
That is Scandinavian. And then
but then there was a Wyatt, wasn't there?
There was a Wyatt. Well, you know, he's
that one stands out to me.
Kid. Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. I
was like, oh,
that's funny.
I
forgot about that. Yeah. But anyway, so not everybody has a really, you know, like a really important name, but for the majority, I really try and pick something that means something. So.
Okay. So then, let's see here. I want to make sure I get the reader questions in. But I have a couple more like whole series questions. So, I mean, it's kind of whole series, but it kind of transitions to Titan Tempest. So maybe we'll start with mine and then we'll go to a couple of your reader questions. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that Dust and Shadow and Earth and Ember were dual perspective, right? Yep. Like guy and girl of the couple. And there is a romance in each of these books, right? But in Titan Tempest, we just have Samara. So what was it about this story that made you decide like, I'm not gonna like have, you know, the male POV or the, you know, partner POV. I'm just gonna have Samara's POV. And was it, and I'm like, part of me is like, is it because you wanted people to not know who the love interest was going to be? Because there were a couple options.
Yeah. So yeah, I honestly, I can't remember if I went into it with a plan, but when I sat down, actually, I think I knew after I was outlining, you know, doing the sticky notes on the wall, I would think I was pretty sure like I had to just have one perspective, because at first it wasn't even about the love interest situation. It was more about what Eric was holding. Like I couldn't have the audience know that before she did. That just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, it has to come from her, but originally, so one of the big secrets, when I originally plotted this, Eric wasn't even the love interest. So that
I was wondering that too.
Yeah. So it was pretty early on that I changed it up, just because he was like, so talk about the universe talking, like he would not get out of my brain. And so I was like, dude, you're supposed to be just this jerk off that nobody likes, like stop coming back. So I had to like tone him down a little bit. And then this whole other storyline came up. So I even remember I was chatting with Holly, because I think she was, I don't know if she was, I can't even remember why. I think it had something to do because she was working, like reading Earth and Ember at the time or what it was. But I told her, I was just like, I think I have to change like most of where the story is going, because I can't get this character. He's like taking over. And that hasn't really happened to me before.
That happens to me.
Yeah, it really, like, I kind of generally have, like, there'll be some characters that pop up and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll give them a little, but this like changed my story. So, and then I was worried. I was like, oh my God, but then Raph is, but I liked it because Raph seemed like just such the cliche, obvious answer. And I liked that Eric changed everything. So anyway, it all obviously worked out and I really liked it. But this book was full of surprises. And like I said, I knew that going into it would just be her, but as I started really working with the male characters, I was like, there's just no way that I can have either two, you know, do I do both guys? And then that's weird. And then that tells too much. Yeah. And then, so anyway, it just all worked out this way. And I've only written one other book like that, and that's Untamed for the Savage North Chronicles, which also just felt extremely natural to do it that way. So it's definitely not my go-to, but I guess when the universe calls for specifics, I got to give it to them. So
I really like it because I feel like when you're in both people's heads, it's like you're, for me at least, not a native romance reader, which usually has the dual perspectives. I feel like I'm always like, okay, I can like see what you're both thinking. So like, can you guys just like talk about it already?
That makes sense.
So, but so I really liked Samara's, being able to just like deep dive into Samara's head. And Eric I actually thought it worked out really well, having not being inside Eric's head at all, because he is so like reserved and quiet and just like hold his cards really close to his chest kind of guy.
Well, and I think that's another thing. I was thinking about this a while ago about how in my stories, I usually, like, I don't go into it saying I'm going to have a male and female perspective. But I think because generally in my stories, they have two completely different things going on that I have to show it works out that way. Whereas in this specific one, like think about Luke and Kaya, they have two, like they're
from two different places.
Yeah. So there's no way I could get around that.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't have to do that with like going to Dust and Shadow. I didn't have to do that, I guess, with Clayton and Joe, but at the same time, I wanted to write the Marshal so much and dive into his character. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't do Clayton's perspective. So there's just like, it always has a purpose. And so I think that's why, like, sometimes when it, like the last couple of times the only two times this has happened is when, you know, I don't feel that I need to have both of them. It's because like Samara and Eric are in the same place. Like, yeah, he has secrets. She doesn't need to know them yet. And other than that, like, it's a little mystery, and it just kind of helps, right? There's
Mhm.
nothing he could really bring to the story other than giving his own secret away. So
Yeah, that she
I don't
doesn't,
know.
she can't handle, she can't shoulder that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, I totally get it though. But yeah, I was thinking about that in recently about how I feel like my characters are always doing so many like such different things that I think that's why I always feel like I have to, I have to represent both. But anyway.
Okay, Anna would like to know how Samara came into existence.
I forgot that I put that in there. Damn it, I should have thought about this one. How did Samara come into existence? I knew I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do different types of survivors, people, different ethnicities. I wanted to do I wanted this story to be, I knew I wanted to be more adventure than the other two. I wanted it to kind of be more like, especially because it took place on the coast, I really wanted to kind of embrace like the whole sailor, black sails, Vikings feel. So I guess I just had, obviously I write, my main character is always female. So, obviously that was kind of a no-brainer, but I just feel like, I don't know why her whole story came really naturally to me. I really kind of wanted to push the boundary with her. Like I gave her some pretty intense stuff to do. And
yeah, she was injured for like, I don't know, like most of the book.
Yeah. And I'm just like, there's a lot of stuff going on with her, but I also feel like like back in the day, if you just think about like, man, life's hard,
Yeah.
And so it made sense. And I really wanted to write that for her. And I don't know.
I knew exactly what you're going to do as soon as I was like reading the first chapter. I was like, God damn her.
I know. I wasn't really trying to hide it, but I think for me, the scar, like how she got the scar was something that was very prominent in my head when I first got it. And I was like, this seems extreme. But then I was like, she's like, I don't know. I just really wanted to play with the emotional scars, not just physical scars of like losing your family and your dad, like just all those things.
Yeah.
And what extreme she might go to and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I really wanted to get kind of gritty with her. And I don't know, it felt really good. I really like it. I really liked it. I want to write more like that.
I'm sure you'll get to.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited for the other books coming up.
Yeah. So Helen asks, well, maybe I'm going to save this one. Sabrina asks, I would love to know more about Samara's parents.
Okay.
You feel like there's any kind of a novella or anything? Or short story?
But I wanted to make, like, I hint around to it about how, like Abraham, he doesn't necessarily have to be a likable character, but I wanted him to be somewhat understandable too.
I felt like he was very realistic. Like I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I think, so I think for him, I liked the idea of Samara's mother being like the really nurturing one. I know a lot of mothers are in general, but I liked the idea of him pushing her away because he'd gone through so much in the past already. He'd already lost, his first wife, and he'd, the horrible circumstances. I can't remember if I said it was the Raiders or not. But like he'd already lost so much, and I think he might have even lost a child. So I tried to give him a little bit of like kind of a reason why he's so standoffish and he puts a distance between him and his daughter. And I don't know, that just felt really interesting to write. And I didn't have to do much deep diving with Olivia, obviously, because she, spoiler alert, dies very soon. But yeah, I don't know. They don't have much of a story other than they complimented each other, and then he went off the deep end when she was gone because he lost someone else. But I like that Samara had the best parts of her mom, so that's good.
Yeah. Let's see which one to. Let's do how many books? So I know this series is complete. So Helen asks how many books will be in this series. So the answer to that is like 3 plus a novella, right?
Yeah. So, but I don't know if she's also referring to, I don't know if people know that, how many people know about the spinoff. So
yeah, that was my next question, which is,
yeah. So just to clear it all up, I have been trying, originally this was gonna, I mean, this world is open. It's never going to close. Like the Forgotten Lands, I'll probably write more. It's not closed forever or anything like that, but the next stories that feel important to me aren't actually in the United States. And so I was trying to force them and write them as part of the Forgotten Lands, and it didn't feel right. So because the first one that's coming up in the Ruined Lands is, again, I was talking earlier about, I'm calling it New London. It takes place in London. It's almost kind of like ground zero for a lot of things, So it kind of picks up there. So again, overseas. The second book is going to be super piratey and Viking-esque, and then the third one is going to be like all Viking. So it's all that stuff. It's just so far removed from the United States. It didn't feel right to have it as part of the Forgotten Lands. So that's why it's the Ruined Lands, but it's all the same world. And then again, they're all open for more stories, more, whether it's novellas or novels. But for now, the stories I want to tell aren't in that area. So
yeah,
that's why I'm jumping ship. We're going to another location. So,
but you could come back.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's the cool thing about making it a whole world, is like, who knows, maybe I'll have a whole other sister series or spin-off series in the same world, and a completely like jungle, like everything book's gonna be in the jungle. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, I could do anything with it, which is really exciting for me. So
all right, so you're thinking about jungles is what you're saying.
I don't know, apparently that just came off the top of my head, but I mean, yeah.
Okay, so
I already know what you're gonna ask.
No, you don't. Face. You don't. Okay. I was just thinking that she thinks I'm gonna ask that, but I'm not asking that right now.
Okay.
I just wanted to make you sweat a little bit.
Okay.
Which do you have a favorite book, couple, main character from the Forgotten Lands?
Yeah, that seems really easy for me for some reason. I don't know what that says, but
yeah, that was like an instant reaction.
Yeah, yes. Actually, Kaya and Luke are my favorite.
Oh.
I think because they're so different, and they really test each other a lot. So, I mean, they couldn't be any. I mean, they quite literally loathe each other and want each other to die. So, they have been, fighting against each other their whole existence. So, I just really like that relationship with them, and exploring them, figuring out who they are, and getting to know the world outside of what they quote unquote think they know.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I just really like that. It just feels really timeless to me too. So anyway, yeah, I think it's because I love Kaya so much too. I don't know. I have a soft spot in my heart for her. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make you want, like, could you see yourself like writing more Kaya?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I actually, writing the epilogue, it's a really long epilogue, because I kept thinking like, oh, there's so many like supporting characters and things I want to explore about her actually, like what does the civilization and the truce look like, 10 years from now when she has kids. I don't know, like I definitely can like get, and what does their world look like, because now they have to start coexisting and stuff. So I don't know, I could definitely see something. Maybe I always think like, oh, I should be like those authors and do like some sort of like holiday novella, and I'm like, what the fuck would that look like? I'm gonna do a Victorian holiday in a dystopian post-apocalyptic world.
Oh, I think that would be great.
Oh yeah. Here's our little shriveled cactus tree for Christmas. Oh my God. Man. Anyway.
All right.
Okay.
Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
All right. Who would you cast in the roles of the main characters from each book?
So I have to tell you, this whole world, the whole idea, as far as like, I guess I can't say world, but Dust and Shadow, the idea of Dust and Shadow, I don't know if you remember us talking about this, and I was in Washington visiting you, this was years ago, and we were driving around. It was when we went to like the
Winthrop?
Yeah. And we went to the little village and stuff. I was talking about how, this whole kind of Western, like, I don't know, post-apocalyptic world. And I think it stood out a lot in my mind since I watched Book of Eli. That movie, like, it's one of my favorite movies. It just stuck with me, how gritty it is and how raw and how like horrible the people are. And I remember thinking, I want to write something like that. And so it's funny because now that I'm saying that, I just realized totally accidentally who my Joe person, like when I first started writing, my Joe, I kind of wanted to be like kind of rough and gritty and feisty. And I feel like Mila Kunis could be like that. And then I just realized she's actually in Book of Eli, and I just put that together. That's how my brain works, clearly. But anyways, I kind of liked her and like a mixture between her and Natalie Portman, because I also watched Jane Got a Gun, and it's a Western with Natalie Portman. And I was like, oh, between the two of them, man, they're super badass. Like, that'd be super cool. When I was writing it, they didn't look like or Joe didn't look like either of them. But that's kind of like in my head, that's kind of, where I got
inspiration.
Her. Yeah. And it's funny because I want to say like the Marshal, obviously my inspiration kind of came, Gary Oldman is one of the people who's in Book of Eli. And so he's the one who gave me the idea for the Marshal. In my head, that's not what he ended up looking like, but he gave me the idea of like this guy who controls stuff, and in that movie, he's controlling the Bible, and it's about a book, but this is all about the water, right? So, but I think for him, like, I feel like there's some people, even if Joe has been kind of wishy-washy, even like Clayton, I remember thinking a long time ago, and just to know, I had to dive deep for this, Lindsay. I had to go back to my old Pinterest boards, because I wrote this book like 4 years ago or something. I don't even remember.
More than that, I feel like.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I had to go back, and I had like a really scruffy Liam Hemsworth as Clayton. But then really it's funny because I've noticed this with most of my stories is a lot of times the main characters don't actually have somebody. But like Jessica Chastain was always Scarlett to me, her sister. And then the Marshall Cunningham was always kind of like an Ed Harris type,
So you must have been watching Westworld.
No, this is way before that.
Oh, okay.
And then Ashford, I was watching Hell on Wheels though, I think, or maybe it was after. I don't know, but I remember Anson Mount. Oh my God, this scruffy long hair beard version. I think he was a little too old to be my Clayton, so I remember I remember thinking he is my Ashford. This is my Ashford. So anyway, like there's certain people that definitely kind of stuck with me, but.
I love Hell on Wheels. I always think of as like such a great example of he's such a gray character.
Yeah, it's like such a good show.
Yeah, he's not a villain. Like in Breaking Bad, he's a villain, not Anson Mount. He's not in Breaking Bad.
I was gonna say, I didn't know he's
no. Bryan Cranston, the main character or the actor, whatever. I don't know why I can't think of his name. Anyway, because I'm in the middle of a podcast, so of course my brain won't work. But like he is the villain. Like this is like the story of how he becomes a villain. But also can't think of the character's name. But Anson Mount in Hell on Wheels, like he is like the perfect gray character where he like is doing terrible things. Like you see him doing bad things, but like you slowly learn like the reason why. And it's just, he's really interesting. Yeah. Sorry.
No. It's totally true. No, that's totally true. I love the great character. That's why one of my all-time favorite characters I've ever written is Marshall Cunningham, because he fascinates me, and I think he's the coolest gray character ever. So I totally get it. But then I was thinking, so Kaya, it's funny because with her, there was somebody that was very prominent in my mind, but I can't tell you who she is because she was some model who actually gave me the inspiration for what Kaya would look like. I just happened to find her, but she had these like really intense, really cool tribal tattoos all on her chest and neck. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Mhm.
And then, so again, I don't know who this model is or whatever, but she was kind of my inspiration for that. But I started using the art breeder a while ago.
Mhm.
So that's another reason why it's hard, because for all of Tide and Tempest, like all those characters, they all had portraits that I created that are not famous people. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's really hard to try and put them in there. But one person that I'm sure you'll probably find, I don't know if you'll find it fitting, but you'll know who I'm talking about. Abraham, hands down, from Tide and Tempest, was always Ray Stevenson. He's the one who, I mean, he's in everything. He was in Black Sails. He was Blackbeard. He was in
Is that the
he's been in so many things I can't even think straight.
I can't think of who Blackbeard was. Is that the guy like who died and came back?
Oh, I don't know.
All right.
But he's in like all the period pieces too.
What's his name?
Ray Stevenson. Oh, he's also in, you didn't watch Vikings though either. He was in Vikings.
I did. I watched like the first up until Ragnar died.
Okay, then no,
Spoiler.
You don't know who he is. He's in the later seasons.
Ray Stevenson. Stevens.
Oh, is it Stevens?
No, I see him. Okay, got it. Okay.
He's who I pictured, Abraham.
Oh, okay.
And then
he was in
I'm telling you, he's in like everything.
Wasn't he in apparently he's in Thor. Wasn't he in
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Come on. What's it called? Maybe not. No, he must not have been. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's fine. Another one that was pretty clear, or that came to mind when I was thinking about who I would cast for Samara is Florence Pugh. Do you know who that is?
Yes. Oh my God, I love
really
her
good.
right now. I just watched Black Widow like a month ago, and then now I have been like deep diving into Hawkeye.
Yeah, I've seen a ton of stuff with her in here, and she's an amazing actress, and I think she'd be a really good Samara. So
I had never seen anything with her in it, and I love her as
she's cool.
Yelena. She's so like sassy.
Yeah. She like tries the landing. She goes, no.
She's like, oh, I know. That was what I was like sitting there watching it on my phone, just because that's how you watch things when you have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I'm just like laughing, like cackling. Like, that's so true. Like, why do you do that? Why do you pose like that?
Yeah.
It's just like a pose.
Yeah, like there's nobody else really that has a very specific person. It kind of like, it's funny because I feel like it's way easier for me to find specific, famous people for my supporting characters than it is for my leads. It's too hard.
Yeah. No, I feel like I can relate to that.
But anyway, so yeah, those are kind of the names that come to mind. But
you didn't have anyone for Eric?
I didn't, and I mean, so I watched this show called Jamestown on BBC. And there is a guy, an actor, I can't even remember his name, who he plays the blacksmith, and I really liked his character a lot. And so I kind of based some of his personality off of him, just because I felt like some sort of like a connection, but they're also very different, and he's not what he looks like. So it was just like, I don't know. Just more of like the charisma or whatever you can call it that. But yeah, I don't know. That's really hard.
Yeah.
I'm sure you don't remember Jacob from Earth and Ember, because I know it's been a while since you read that one.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But he's like Luke. He goes with Luke. He's kind of like the timid but really like brainiac, who kind of knows about Caius people. So
actually, I do feel like you're tickling my brain.
Yeah, so he ends up going with them, and he gets held captive with her people and stuff like that. For some reason, and I know he's been in a gazillion other things, but don't know if it's at Asha Butterfield. Anyway, Asha Butterfield. Anyway, he was in like Sex Education. He's in that. He's like the main character. I've had to picture him as Jacob though for some reason.
Asha Bromfield is
I think it's
Oh yeah, that's not
Butterfield. But anyway, I think I feel like he has like really big blue eyes, and he's just like super, I don't know what you call him, but he's so endearing. I just feel like he'd be really good. So
well, I see. Okay.
It's ASA.
Okay. Yeah.
Asha. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I could see that.
yeah.
He's Ender in Ender's Game.
Yes, that's the one I was trying to remember what that was called. I kept wanting to say Orson Scott Card, and I know that's
He's Orson Scott Card. Yeah.
That's obviously not the name of the show. So.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yes, that's it. So I know the audiobook for Tide and Tempest is not currently out because you are just in the process of proofing it right now, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So people can find it soon. Earth and Ember just came out recently, right? For the audiobook. And so people can maybe in January be looking for Tide and Tempest.
Yeah. If my luck, well, at least my audiobook luck, Earth and Ember was approved in like 3 days from ACX.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's like unheard of.
And the one before that was just last month took 3 months for Untamed. So I honestly, I don't know how they decide these things, but anyway, yeah. So this by, the end of January for sure, because like I said, I have it, so it's not going to take long at all. All the books should be out. And also the prequel, Borne, and Scorn, is also an audiobook, so you can listen to that too.
Oh, great. Cool. And can people who sign up for your mailing list, they can get Borne of Sand and Scorn for free, right?
Like an ebook.
Yeah.
Actually, they can get Dust and Shadow and Borne of Sand and Scorn free. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing that. I can tell you that Dust and Shadow, the price goes up. It's free right now, but as of January 1st, it will no longer be free. So people want to grab that now before January 1st. And yeah,
it will not be out for your mailing list either.
Well, for now it is, but again, I don't know. I have a lot of free books.
Okay.
Cough, cough, cough. If anybody
so get on there.
Yeah, I have a lot of free books right now for my mailing list subscribers. So I don't know how long I'm going to be offering all of them. I mean, I have a lot. So yeah, definitely snag, get on there now.
And there's like bonus stuff too. I know at the end of Tide and Tempest, you mentioned that there's a steamier sex scene.
Yeah, there is. Oh yeah,
for subscribers.
Yeah, there's also an entire chapter from Raph's perspective too, that takes place towards like months after. So I think it'd be really interesting for readers too, because it kind of is more of that piratey vibe. So
oh, cool.
And it explores, his relationship with his friend Hector.
So I was confused. Are they together?
I mean, they need to be if they're not. No, the way that I write it though, initially I wanted them to be, but then it wasn't really Rafe's story. So, or Raph's story. See, that's how in my head it's Rafe, but I know that's not how it's spelled, because
Rafe's feels more piratey.
I know. But Raphael is not, I don't know, that didn't work.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, they have a very long history together, and they've been best friends and been through a lot. So I think that for them, or at least for Raph, he's always had to protect Hector from his dad. So I think that he hasn't really allowed himself to really open himself up, I think is really what it is. I think he's in denial, but
yeah,
I mean, we see a little bit more of that.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, you could always write another book about them.
Yeah, I actually
very piratey.
I actually outlined part of one. So
I would be really excited about that book.
So anyways, like I said, nothing's closed in any worlds, guys. There's lots.
Yeah, I can 100% relate to that.
Yeah.
Clearly, as I just revived a world.
I know, right? So anyway, but yeah, so I'll keep you guys posted if I get a wild hair and decide to do any sort of, all the things. I want to do all the things, guys. This question is when.
Okay, so people can obviously they can get Borne of Sin and Scorn and Dust and Shadow free on your mailing list.
Yep.
And also, where else can they find the series in ebook?
So all of everything's wide. So
okay.
If anybody goes to my website, it's probably the easiest thing. You just click on the book and it gives you links to all the retailers. So that's probably the easiest thing, but you can get it on, you can do it through Apple, iTunes, iBooks. You could do Google Play, you could do Nook and Barnes and Noble and all those things. So yeah, they're.
And then for Ruined Lands, the first book is up for pre-order, I want to say.
Yes.
And when is that one coming out?
Well, at least by June, but I have a feeling it's going to be out sooner. But
okay,
I gave myself some buffer room.
Okay.
I mean, Tide and Tempest wasn't supposed to be out until I think the end or like December, and I released it at the beginning of November. So we'll see.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
I love me some Ruins.
Yeah, and this is one of those things where I think it's going to be like Dust and Shadow in the way that there's a lot of kind of setup of the world. It's not quite as adventure-y, but then the other two are going to be hardcore. So the first one is very kind of gothic and lots of mystery and trying to figure things out and seeing the world as it is now for these people.
And you said there's like a Beauty and the Beast kind of vibe, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like Beauty and the Beast meets Jane Eyre. Which is really fun. And it's like, it feels very dystopian and gothic. And let's just say that the Beast he's called the Slave Collector.
Ooh, and, good name.
And she is a orphan of sorts. So yeah, anyway, it's fun.
I'm excited.
Master Blackburn.
All right. So where would you like people to, I mean, I know this is like also your podcast, but where would you like listeners to look for you online?
LindseyPogue.com. You guys can find me, my website, and then author Lindsey Pogue everywhere else. So we'll link to it. Cool. If you're not tired of me already, you will be soon. All right. But that's probably all for me. Shall I exit the podcast?
Y'all.
Starting in 3, 2, 1. That wraps up this episode. Thanks again for those of you who submitted questions. That was really fun to answer those. Especially, I feel like the Forgotten Lands is something I've been working on for a very long time, and it feels really good that at least those 3 books are wrapped up and I can finally talk about them. So yeah, so we'll be chatting next time with wild romance author Kay Webster, aka Christy, about her newest release, Triple Threat. She's been on the show. She was actually one of our first guests, I think maybe 1 or 2. So that's like episode 1 or 2, which is really cool. And at the time she had written 100 books. So I'm interested to see how
like
what
200?
her number is now. Yeah, what's her number now? Anyway, we're going to be talking to her next time. In the meantime, if you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a review wherever you listen, and don't forget to join the No Shelf Control Facebook group. And make sure you check the Patreon, or sorry, will be a link to Patreon if you guys want to support us on Patreon, but don't forget to check the show notes because we're also gonna have links to all the stuff that we talked about today or tonight. And until next time, happy listening and reading adventures, everybody. We'll chat with you soon.
Happy reading. Bye.